Hi, and welcome to Data Stewardship and Quality, or DSQ for short. We're really happy to have you here. And really, this is one of our most popular courses that we find people taking because it really covers the roles, the life cycle, and the overall considerations to make when thinking about how to implement improved data stewardship and quality and governance at your organization. So over the length of this course, we're going to take a deep dive into the areas of data stewardship, quality, and governance to really see how we can use them in our own organizations. As we know, both the analytics and the business side are really focused on how to create trust and alignment to the business problem, as well as integration into the day-to-day. So in designing this course, we really built it out so that after this class, you should be able to understand and explain the importance, as well as the concepts of data stewardship, quality, and governance. You should be able to curate and contextualize a data set as a data steward using a data catalog and a data walk as key artifacts in your operations. You should be able to improve the quality of a data set using clear data quality requirements and monitoring, as well as long-term manage the risk of analytics using a governance framework, including role-based access control, metadata, and lineage, just to name a few. The idea is that one day, automate all of this data and information processing with AI. And AI can mean many things, but in general, this is the way the market sees things heading. So companies have taken different paths on the way to get there. And one thing we've been excited to learn is that many companies are focused on enabling data across their organization rather than jumping into building machine learning and more advanced modeling to start. They really see data enablement as the way to free up capacity for their analytics team and help their analytics team really tip the spear capabilities focused on more advanced techniques that are available. So as you look at these steps of AI transformation on the slide today, think about where your organization sits if you were to break it into really 5 levels of maturity, starting with decentralized and manual and working your way up to scaling in AI. A lot of what we'll cover will be in phase 2 and phase 3 of the overall transformation, really the stewardship, quality, and governance to enable automation and a hub and spoke model, as well as data enablement and self-service. But as you go through this course, think about where your organization sits today and what's that next step on the AI transformation path that you'd like to get to. And think about how to apply the concepts and foundations to actually getting there. So to start with a definition, we threw around the word data enablement. And really, we use data enablement to point out all the activities, processes, and tools, as well as other things an organization undertakes to really open up the flow of data across the organization. So we're talking about data stewardship, quality, and governance, which is a lot of words to say over and over again. So catch me as we go throughout this course. But in general, we see all 3 of those as levers to drive data enablement eventually. And really, data enablement is a way teams are accelerating AI transformation and creating a data-driven culture by increasing the use of data across the organization, which requires quality, stewardship, and governance all rolled into it to ensure we can trust the decisions and the information that we're sharing. These are all puzzle pieces we're going to put together to really make data enablement a reality. So the 3 main topics we'll be focused on are the levers or foundations to enable data, as mentioned, the stewardship, quality, and governance lever. Stewardship on the left is really all about how we curate or make data available. Quality is about how we define and automate quality into the data processing to ultimately build trust in our analytic solution. And then lastly, governance is about how we manage risk and meet the necessary security requirements required of our data sets that we're actually using for analytic solutions. This may be a new term to you, but data stewardship is a role that we're seeing emerging in a lot of new teams. So it's good to pause and really define this role as we see it today. We say data stewardship, we mean how we provide context and access to the data, specifically as a point of contact for folks doing analytics on the data sets in question. So I like to use the word curate for this because it makes me think of a museum curator in a way. They put the dinosaurs on display and then give the backstory of where the dinosaurs came from, as well as what people might find interesting about those dinosaurs and those artifacts. So stewards are kind of like the Indiana Jones of data in a way. He didn't just curate, but he dug them up, but whatever, you get what I'm saying. The steward adds context around artifacts or data assets that are ultimately being used for analytic solutions. This one may seem a little bit more straightforward, but it's important to define and really align with your team on. Data quality, as a definition to us, is really all about making sure the data meets the needs of the analytic solution. And quality can be inherently tricky to define on a case-by-case basis, as we'll cover and go deeper on quality. But I like to use the analogy of a shipping manifest for data quality. Did I get what I ordered in this truckload of data? The key piece being you have to place an articulate order for folks to know what to send you. So defining quality is just as important as measuring and improving quality to ultimately ensure that the customer gets delivered to them what they expected in a high quality fashion. And we'll dive more into how to really measure and ensure high quality of our analytics solutions. Then lastly, governance. So governance is really all about managing risk. Analytics involves some degree of risk, but it's about creating the automation and the processes and controls to prevent the risk from becoming too much or violating legal, privacy, or other constraints you have in your organization. So here for governance, I like to use the analogy here of rock climbing. It's inherently risky, but if you use ropes and other gear to limit how much you're going to fall, governance is that same way. You can take those measured risks and achieve new heights that you might have not seen possible before. Think about that and really think about governance as a layer under every single process and role you set up to ensure it's thought of at every step in the process throughout. It's not something that you can check in and out of. It's something that should be overlaid throughout the entire life cycle that a data set and an analytics solution goes through. It's not hard to quantify the impact of data quality, and really it's a favorite topic as part of this course because of just the impact on overall labor productivity that you can see. You're probably already familiar with the back and forth that happens when you experience poor data quality, especially if you're living as an analyst on a team. Just the amount of rework you have to do to fix data quality issues that pop up. So the more we can improve data quality, the more we can drive productivity of our team, especially our technical team who's developing new capabilities for our org today. And it's important to know why we invest in these processes and capabilities. It's not only to help us prioritize them over the onslaught of analytics requests and everything else that is happening, but also so we can articulate to our business partners and team members why it's worth the effort to build in quality stewardship and governance. First is alignment. So the ability to meet the needs of the business better, get it right faster, so we can ultimately cut down on the back and forth. Then we have trust. We want people to use the analytics function or warehouse instead of doing their own analytics across the organization. So more that we can build in trust in what we're delivering to them to really drive their decisions that they're making, the more we can work together as a system as opposed to separate islands across the organization working on our own stuff. Then lastly, integration. We want the things that we're creating to be used in the day-to-day operations. So as we design and develop new analytics solutions, we must think about how to integrate those analytics solutions into the daily work of the end user, how we can make it convenient, intuitive, and ultimately accessible for them and their team to use on a regular basis at their convenience. In order to talk about data quality, we need to start with an agreement on what we mean by quality. And this can be a little bit tougher than it may seem on the surface. We define it as the ability of what we produce to meet the needs of the client or user and to provide value or impact. Really, there are two parts to meeting high quality. One is understanding what the client needs, and two is ultimately providing it. The first part can be tricky in analytics because our client doesn't always know exactly what they need all the time. And that really brings us back to really a chicken and egg problem that we see often. We're going to look at data quality from the lens of how to reduce these cycles in order to build alignment and trust. And a lot of quality issues, frankly, stem from the lack of clarity on the technical and business side of what quality means. So that's why we focus on the requirements and design to help understand that faster. There's a technical problem of how we provide visibility to the quality of the data, but then there's also the people and process side to really create that alignment faster. Usually multiple analytics solutions will be built off of a data set over time. So it's best to focus the data quality efforts around the analytics solution as opposed to the data sets themselves. And this is a very important point, and we'll be looking at data quality through the lens of the data analyst building the actual solution. The data steward's role is to help guide the analyst to get the context and parameters of quality right in developing the solution. And we'll talk about these terms in more detail, but the analyst is focused on defining the voice of the customer or what the user needs. Then the steward and owner are really focused on representing the data and the business process which it takes to generate it. Together, they create alignment and increase the quality of the data set itself. Now, improving data quality, really there's three key metrics, visualizations, and monitoring aspects to talk about. Starting with quality metrics, which is the quantification of the aspects of quality which are critical to the business. And we'll get more into how to effectively define metrics next. Then there's data quality visualization, and oftentimes it's in the form of a dashboard, which really helps to show the data for the stakeholder to increase awareness and feedback on that improvement. And lastly is quality monitoring. So creating awareness and driving action to improve quality through threshold and alerts for the team. That way we can see signal through the noise and we're not constantly reacting to every single potential quality issue that arises. The better we can build in quality monitoring as well as thresholds to manage to, the more we can sustain improvements to the quality in the analytic solutions that are out there. In this next module, let's learn about data governance, which is a very hot topic right now in the industry, and a lot of times can be misconstrued in terms of just thinking about data access, but there's so much more, and we will cover that in this next module. After this module, let's think about how we can start governing data through support and defined processes. We'll then use a data access plan to govern access to a data set, as well as map out the data lineage of a solution and provide traceability of our data. Then lastly, let's think about how to start a data governance council to share around best practices related to governance, as well as overall info security at our organization. And to revisit our big picture view of what we're covering in this course, next we're going to focus on the governance lane across the top and the tools and capabilities within. Analytics teams can rely on workarounds and pay the price when it comes to security. And analytics often opens up a whole new opportunity, but also new risks and vulnerabilities for the organization. Governance is about having the process and tooling in place to manage that risk effectively and control exposure. Here's a big picture of data governance. And as you can tell, there's a lot that goes into governance, and it's basically everything that we could do inside of the analytics function is going to have a piece of governance to it. So in order to maintain that it's meeting our compliance and controls, we need to form organization. We've included here one from Dataiku, and I like this one because it shows not only the big picture of everything that's involved from architecture through how we manage all of our data, but also how to do quality management, warehousing itself, and all the way through things like document and content control, as well as data ops. Overall, what we're looking to do here is to create a federated data governance approach. What we mean by that is, compared to a more centralized approach, governance is going to be embedded throughout our analytics organization, and the core team is really helping to provide the procedures and standards that are structured for the entire organization so that teams across the org know how to do governance in every piece of the work that they're doing. Again, governance, just like ethics and trust, is one of those topics and habits you have to build in throughout your overall life cycle for an analytics solution and how you manage a data set. It's not something you can check in and out of. It's really something you need to consider with every activity you do in building out a data set and producing an analytics solution. So as we look at how to translate this high-level concept of governance into more specific, tangible applications or methods that we can use, we're going to be looking at the tools, including how do we use a data access plan to define who can use and see the data for analytics. We're also going to look at the data lineage and metadata to really see how we can capture and automate the collection of information about the different assets and analytic solutions that are out there, so we can really audit and understand what's going on. And then lastly, we'll have a data governance council, which will work similar to our data stewardship council. And that's a good community for us to build together and share best practices and really interface with the security function to make sure that what we're meeting all has the needs that the business has. This course really is designed to go wide and shallow over all of these topics, so then we can dive deeper into each of the areas which are most important to you. So feel free to make this course your own as you're learning the concepts and learning the foundations and thinking about how to apply them back at your workplace. Because that's the ultimate success of any course that we put on with you, is that you actually go and apply what you learned and make a change and a real impact in your org.